Beowulf Chapter 6. This is on page 412 of your textbook. With Wiglaf's help, Beowulf kills the dragon. Beowulf dies and Wiglaf becomes king. Wiglaf then punishes the disloyal warriors and prepares for Beowulf's funeral. Wiglaf then showed his bold heart and his battle skill. The blazing breath of the savage serpent was scorching his body, but the young warrior ignored its flaming fury and struck the dreaded dragon deep in its chest with his own bloodthirsting battle blade, and at last the fire serpent's flames began to fail. The death-sick war-king, shield and spear of the Geat folk, fought off his destiny and reached for the battle-sharp dagger that he wore upon his ring-meshed battle-shirt. With one savage war-stroke, he slashed at the frightful fire serpent and sliced it in two. Destroying the dreaded dragon was Beowulf's last heroic deed, for his own death wound began to burn and swell, and the fire serpent's poison began to pulse in his chest. While he still had some strength, the old warrior dragged his body to the entrance of the earth hall. There he sat against the stone wall and gazed at the wondrous giant work within the barrow. Wiglaf, that worthy young warrior, found water, gathered it in his hands, and washed his king's blood-smeared body. Then he loosened Beowulf's hard battle helmet. Beowulf knew that his life was ending, and with it his joy. And so he said to Wiglaf, "My son, the dreaded dragon now lies still and slain, sleeping from its sore war wounds and taken from its treasure trove. And so, quick as the wind, go and gaze upon the hoard heap of golden treasures that lies within the barrow, and bring forth some of that wondrous wealth, for I would see that golden treasure and enjoy the jewels before I die. My winning of it may make it easier for me to give up my life and leave the land I have ruled for so long." So Beowulf spoke, and Wiglaf was swift to do his lord's bidding. Within the age-old earth hall, the young warrior saw a bright, wondrous banner, woven with golden threads. It hung high over the boundless barrow hoard, and its light shone upon all the treasures heaped high upon the floor. And so Wiglaf saw many glittering jewels, shining golden objects fashioned by an age-old giant-smith, arm rings that had been woven with shrewd skill, and wondrous wall hangings. The young warrior found drinking goblets and dishes, and jars and bowls, all from a bygone age, and all now unpolished and stripped of their decorations, for they had rested in that barrow for 1,000 winters, with no one to clean them. He found swords that had shone in a bygone age, but had now been eaten through with rust, and he found many an age-old, rust-eaten war helmet. Such a treasure trove can make mortals overly proud, arrogant, and greedy, try as they will to hide that fact. Swift as a warrior's sword stroke, Wiglaf filled the inside of his ring-meshed battle-shirt with wine-cups and platters, and he took that golden banner, the brightest of beacons. He wanted his beloved lord to look upon this treasure before death, that dreaded destiny, took his life. When Wiglaf returned to his lord's side, Beowulf was blood-bathed and at his life's end. And so the young warrior sprinkled water upon him to revive him. Beowulf admired the gold, and then the dying king unlocked his last word hoard. "I give thanks to the eternal Lord, the King of glory, and the ruler of all, for he has permitted me to see these treasures and to gain this gold for the Geat folk before I die, and I have paid for this precious wealth with my life. Though my death wound pains me, Wiglaf, I leave life with a happy heart, for I have ruled the Geat folk long and well. For 50 winters I have been their shield, and fear of my battle spear has kept all other folk kings from invading Geatland. I have killed no kinfolk, and I have kept well what a king should keep. Let my battle-famed war comrades burn my body upon lofty Wales Cliff, and let them build me a barrow there. Make that broad mound rise tower tall to remind the Geat folk of me, and call it Beowulf's Barrow. It will stand upon the high headland, and so it will serve as a sign for seafarers as well, for they must sail their broad-beamed boats across the deep waters of the whale road when mists have made their way dark. Now, I would give my war garments and my battle sword to a son born of my blood, but Ware did not give me that heir. And so, Wiglaf, you must lead the Geat folk and look to their needs, for you are the last of my blood king, and you have earned all that is mine. So take my gold-twisted collar ring, take my war helmet with its battle-ready bores, and take my ring-mesh battle-shirt, for it was hand-linked and hand-joined by Wayland, that far-famed master-smith, and use them wisely and well as you rule the gate-folk. Young and old, Weird wove the destiny of all our kinfolk and brought it upon them, and now I, too, must take that last lonely journey. I must follow. So Beowulf spoke to Wiglaf, and these were the old war-king's last words. His cold corpse remained behind, but his spirit went forth to receive the reward of the good, the loyal, and the just. Wiglaf's heart flooded with surging sea-swells of grief and sorrow as he looked upon the body of his bold-hearted lord and king, but he gazed with pleasure at the corpse of the savage fire-serpent that had slain him. That dreaded dragon, lying uncoiled in its 50-foot lengths, had fallen, death-sick, upon the rock-shelf near the earth-hall entrance. Its scales had been scorched by its own furious flames, and it had died of its death-wounds, beaten in battle by the iron-edged, bloodthirsting battle-blades of bold-hearted war-comrades. And so, the dreaded Dragon King ruled no longer. Never again would the frightful horde guard hover over its treasure trove beneath lofty Eagle's Cliff, or haunt the high stone barrow upon that headland height, or spread its great wings and fly over Geatland, swooping down over the villages and farms of the gate-folk and spewing forth a blazing torrent of furious flames. Then Wiglaf returned to Beowulf's side, and he sprinkled his lord and king with water, hoping without hope to awaken him. And it came to pass that the 10 trusted war-comrades, those battle-shy and fear-beaten oath-breakers, now left the shelter of the woods and came down the footpath that led to the earth-hall, and they gathered around the body of their fallen treasure-giving king. Shamefaced, they still wore their gleaming battle-shirts and carried their shining shields. Wiglaf looked at his war-comrades. Among men they had been the most honored, but now they were loathsome. And so the new king unlocked his hoard of angry words. "You left your king when your battle skill could have saved him. Faced with that battle, you threw away his gift of war gear and fled," he declared. "And now you will suffer for it, for you and all your kinfolk must give up your birthrights and your land rights. You must give up your homes. You must give up your gifts of war garments and battle weapons. You must give up all your wealth and treasure, and you must leave Geatland now and forever. Know that, quick as the wind, your disloyal deed will fly forth before you to lands near and far, and there all high-born noblemen, having heard of your battle flight, will drive you from their shores. And so you will learn that death is a far better destiny for a warrior than the wretched life of dishonor and disgrace." So King Wiglaf spoke, and then he sent word of the battle to the shield-bearing band of noblemen, for they were waiting behind lofty Eagle's Cliff at the fort to hear of Beowulf's death or the dragon's. And the news caused their hearts to flood with surging sea-swells of grief, sorrow, and fear, for with the death of their beloved war-king, the gate-folk had lost their shield and their spear, and war would surely follow. Swift as a warrior's sword-stroke, the Franks and the Frisians would reach their shores and wage war, and the Swedes would renew their age-old feuds with the war-geats. Wiglaf then commanded all folk leaders and warriors, householders and landholders from near and far, to bring wood to lofty Wales Cliff for Beowulf's great funeral pyre. The Geat-folk constructed a great pyre. Then, around it, Beowulf's war-comrades placed splendid war-gear, gleaming ring-meshed battle-shirts, hard war-helmets with their battle-ready bores, gold glittering in stern, gold-rimmed lindenwood shields, iron-tipped ashwood spears, and sharp-bladed battle-swords, blood-hardened and shining. At last, King Wiglaf stood before the gathering of Geat-folk and unlocked a hoard of wise words. "Let us now burn our honored king with a trove of the dragon's gleaming gold, for Beowulf, our beloved ring-giver and battle-shield, bought that treasure with his life-blood, and so let him enjoy the wondrous wealth that he won," he declared. "Such treasure gives no lasting gladness to anyone. Now that our beloved king has left the world of laughter and joy, let none of the Geat-folk wear these treasures, for the dragon's wondrous wealth has brought only disaster. It has caused the death of our beloved Beowulf, our bold-hearted war-king. Now, without Beowulf, our battle shield and safeguard to protect us, we will be forced to raise our ash-wood spears and face the terrors of war. For, swift as a warrior's sword stroke, foes from lands near and far will now invade our homeland. The dark raven will cry with craving over the corpses of our battle-weary war comrades, and the wolf will slash away at the slain. So Wiglaf spoke, and it came to pass that the new king led a band of 7 war comrades, the most respected high-born noblemen, down the footpath to the earth hall. Together they entered the barrow, for they sought the dragon's hoard heap of golden treasures, which now lay unguarded upon the floor. They loaded this treasure trove into a wagon that would take it to the funeral pyre. Then they pushed the slain fire serpent over the steep wall of the lower sea cliff, and they watched as the surging sea swell claimed it. Then they carried the body of their bold-hearted war-king up to the pyre upon lofty Wales Cliff, and their hearts flooded with surging sea swells of grief and sorrow as they laid their beloved lord upon it. They kindled the death fires at the base of the funeral pyre, and as the dark wood smoke soared high above the raging flames, the sounds of woeful weeping and wailing mixed with the roar of the fire. And an old Geatish woman, with her heart bound up, her hair bound up, wove a sorrowful song. It was a lament for her lost lord, and for herself, and for all the womenfolk of Geatland. Again and again she sang of the enemy raids that would come, and the terror of the bloodshed and slaughter of their menfolk. She sang of the ravage and ruin of their homeland, and the captivity and shame of their womenfolk. In time, the blaze consumed Beowulf's bones, and so all that was left of the far-famed Lord of Rings was a pile of ashes. Then Wiglaf announced, "Let us listen to our beloved Beowulf's wishes. Around these ashes let us build, for our Lord of Rings, a barrow that will be as great as his fame." So Wiglaf spoke, and so it came to pass that, upon lofty Wales Cliff, the Geat folk built a tower-tall burial mound with worthy walls that seafarers could see from afar, and this barrow became to the seafarers the beacon that Beowulf, their bold-hearted war-king, had been to the Geat folk. Within the barrow the war-gates buried the part of the dragon's treasure trove that they had not burned with Beowulf. Good men had first found that gleaming gold within Earth's rich body, and now the Geat folk returned Earth's wealth to her. Then 12 war comrades, the most bold of heart and strong in strife among the war-geats, rode around the barrow, and they gave Beowulf the honor and praise that is proper when a leader dies. They spoke of their sorrow, and they told tales of their far-famed king's bold heart, battle skill, and strength in strife, and they spoke of the honor and glory he had won by doing deeds of daring and danger. And so Beowulf's kinfolk, his hearth friends, and his war comrades, and all of the Geat folk grieved for their Lord of Rings, for Beowulf had been the greatest of all kings. He had been the most gracious, the most gentle, and the most kind of men, and he had been the most eager to win praise.